Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm so excited to have this next gentleman on. He's Yusef Andre Wiley. He is a very popular keynote speaker, facilitator, and personal coach with over 25 years of experience captivating audiences worldwide. And he's going to tell you about his story. We're so glad he's here. Welcome, Yusef. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I was reading your background. It's amazing, my friend. And you
hmm
have a past just like everybody else. Can you tell us, let's
hmm
let's start a little bit with your past and what was the
hmm
catalyst to bring you where you are today?
Yeah. So, being raised around, I would say my teenage years, those years that where we find ourselves in those crossroads, right? If you would,
Vulnerable.
vulnerable. Um, the 80s for me, not the 80s, which, Reagan era, and they used to say Reaganomics back in the day. And
I'm up there with you.
uh,
I'm a child of the
yeah.
70s and 80s too, brother.
Okay, there you go. And so for me, the gangs in the community that I was raised in began to take off, going a different direction. Because prior to that time period, the gangs had kind of died down a bit. It had died down. But then once the crack cocaine epidemic hit, it just changed everything. I don't know if many people make that association with the crack era or the rock cocaine, the freebasing, that era with the rise of gangs,
Hmm.
especially in California. Being in South Central, pretty much ground zero of, where all of that was happening with the Crips and the Bloods. That's all I saw. Walk out my front door, that's what was in front of me, right? And so even though having two working parents, mom and dad home, being I'm the youngest of five siblings, older brother and three sisters, it didn't stop much. Much didn't get in the way because they were a little bit older. They didn't really get captured by that as I did because I was younger. My brother already had kind of moved on, got married, and was moving out of the neighborhood. And so for me, it was exciting. It was like something was happening in front of me, and I didn't know exactly what it was when I first saw it. And then later, as it continued on through the 80s, I started seeing my friends, like, that maybe a couple of years older than me, nice clothes and new cars, driving. I'm like, it was just happening. It just like overnight. And so that captivated a lot of people, including myself. Even though I was into sports, I was running track, I was playing football, pretty good at it too. But that kind of pulled me more. It was easier to do that versus go to school, get good grades,
Hmm. Hmm.
practice. It was easy just to be the tough guy on the block, and people look at me and say, "Oh, you're somebody," because I'm running with the gangs, right?
Yeah.
So that's what captured a lot of us at that time, and so that put me on the path of gang violence of the 80s. That's when you start hearing about a lot of drive-by shootings. That was the headlines on the news
Hmm.
back then, was drive-by shootings or gang retaliation, gang wars. It was happening a lot. So the laws changed pretty much, grabbed us up. Nancy Reagan said, say no to drugs. And, you know, a whole bunch of us got
Yeah.
swept up during that time period and put into the prison system. I was about 21 years, well, 19 when I initially went to an adult facility. But I was only 14, 15 years old when I first came in contact with
Yeah.
the law enforcement. So it was a tough time, and really I had a way out through school and things of that nature, but it was present in school. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the new era of selling drugs and crack cocaine were in
Well,
the schools.
and I can't imagine, like you said, Yusuf. I mean, you got your peers, flashing around wads of cash,
Yep.
new watches, the
Yep.
clothes and stuff in the
Yep.
cars. I'm 56, brother. So
Yep.
um,
Same age.
I remember growing up with like movies like Colors
Yep.
and Boys in the Hood. I mean, that came along,
Hmm.
I think, several years later, both amazing films.
Hmm.
Are those, I know it's Hollywood, but
Yes.
is like Boys in the Hoods, is that kind of an accurate, somewhat accurate reflection of gang life or Colors?
I yeah, I would say both to a certain extent. I think they got it right, some of
Hmm.
it. But Colors, that was the first one, so that kind of had more air mistakes and it upset a lot of people.
Yeah,
I believe when that movie hit the airwaves, um, it caused more damage because more people was out to prove themselves
yeah, yeah,
as a result of that being aired to the public. That should have been more private. And I recall the debates back then too, where they were debating, Hollywood was debating with the production companies whether or not it would be released or not to the public.
yeah,
And once it was released, it caused more damage.
yeah,
Um, I would say Boys in the Hood was a little bit more accurate depiction of what it was like, as well as Menace to Society.
yeah.
So those two were more accurate in their depictions, and and it affected a lot of people. I believe more people joined gangs as a result of those movies.
Yeah, yeah. Had an opposite effect, probably.
It had the opposite effect. I think more people they figure, oh, we in Hollywood now. This is what we always wanted.
Yeah,
And people don't know that gangs always wanted that type of recognition. They always wanted that. Why
yeah,
you think they named themselves after old gangsters, J Bone, Al Capone? They named
yeah,
themselves after the same Italian mob gangsters
yeah,
that they read about years ago,
yeah.
back in the early days. And they took on the same names, Dillinger, Bugsy. I had a friend that went by that name, Bugsy,
And
right?
you and you remember you name you said the Crips and the Bloods. I mean, I grew up in Denver, and I remember the Bloods and the
Hmm.
Crips were big. But nowadays, I mean, better than anybody,
Hmm.
Yusef. I mean, there's so many different gangs out there. I can't. It's hard to
Right.
keep track of them, right?
Yes, can't keep track anymore. I mean, there's so many now. So, right.
But then the flip side, there's people like you who go on to be successful and have
Hmm.
turn your life around. And there's other people like
Hmm.
the Game and 50
Yeah.
Cent and Snoop and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
are those are the outliers, meaning that doesn't happen that often or what?
Right. It doesn't happen that often. And I think, as we used to say, you got one foot in a little bit with the people that you ran with in the streets. And that's why oftentimes you see them end up working
Yeah.
for them. And I think it's a dangerous balancing thing that they do with that. Um, and my position is that you really have to turn. You have
Hmm.
to take a complete turnaround. It's not halfway, partially. Oh, I'm gonna just dibble and dabble a
Hmm.
little bit. No, you have to completely turn away from it. Completely. You have to separate yourself from it.
But how do you, and I know this probably segues into your work, but how do
Hmm.
you get in that? So let me backtrack. So when you're incarcerated, uh,
Hmm.
um, because gangs are sometimes bigger in when you're incarcerated than they are on the
Yep.
outside. That's another thing.
Yep.
And I mean,
Yep.
as a cop for many years, I mean, I knew that gangs still had as much power, maybe more inside to do stuff than they did outside, depending on the
Hmm.
gang. But when you're inside and you're surrounded by that, and you're getting you know,
Hmm.
surrounded by that, and it's a part of the culture in prison. How do you break away from that, brother, without putting a target on your back?
Yeah, very good question. And I'm gonna answer that more than one way. The first thing I want to say to that is, first of all, if you came in with a reputation where you were still trying to make a name for yourself,
Hmm.
it's harder for you. Just because you still feel like, you know what, not only did I not really get the reputation I feel like I wanted, the people haven't received me that way either. So I have more to prove. And that's usually how it goes. The
Okay.
guys that are inside are saying, no, you're here. You still have something to prove
Yeah.
to us that you're worthy. Those are the ones that typically have the hardest time, right? Then there's that group that also, like myself, I came in the system with a reputation already as being the real deal of a gang member,
Hmm.
right? So I really didn't come in with having to prove something or, who are
I see.
you,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So that's the way it works. Now, for the Latino gangs and even the white gangs, they have the harder time than the African American gangs. And when it comes down to making that separation,
Why is that?
because
Oh, go ahead.
just because their politics are different, just because of the prison politics, the jail and prison politics are a little different and stricter. Um, the dynamics of the gangs operate and function a little different than the white. And the only time that you see that with the African American gangs, especially in prison, is when they get involved in what we call paperwork, meaning you went under contract to be in a gang.
Hmm.
That's another level. And that happens in prison. Many people get in prison and they might have been this gang on the outside, and it might segue them into the prison gang, whether it's the Mexican Mafia, whether it's, the BLs, the Bloodlines, Black Liberation Army, they have these different gangs that are actually inside the prison
Hmm.
that are next level. So, provided that you don't join one of those level of gangs, you might survive. You might find a way out.
So if thanks for explaining that, brother. I mean, so if I come into prison, um, incarcerated,
Mm-hmm.
would I have to affiliate myself? Could I be like a lone wolf? Could I be
No,
like, okay, I couldn't
no.
do it on my own.
No, especially if you're not African American. African Americans can get away with it more than other races that come in the system,
Okay.
just because of the stringentness of the politics that
Right.
they're under compared to the African Americans.
Yeah.
Um, and it's interesting because for me, like if I have something to offer, even if it's positive, the African American gangs in prison, they like that idea that there's a chance that I can get out of prison if I listen to Yusef. So that's another way that I use myself to get out of prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was able to change my life and offer something to the population. And it wasn't just the African Americans, it was all of the races.
Yeah.
I literally opened myself up to all of the races to benefit from what I knew and what I had learned from studying, going in the corner and just read books and and I would go out and share that information. I would share that knowledge with people that couldn't even read,
Yeah.
essentially.
So
Like,
what?
hey, if you do A, B, C, and D, you might can get this,
So
or
how
you
did you?
might can get that.
So how did you get to that point, buddy? I mean, how did you? You're established in the gangs.
Hmm.
I mean, you have a
Hmm.
name. You're respected. How did you go from okay, you're incarcerated, you're up here in the seniority with the gang?
Hmm.
How did you
Hmm.
go from that to kind of slowly breaking away from that and kind of going your own way without being a target? You know what I mean? And forgive me,
Yeah.
I'm just
So,
ignorant on this
so
stuff.
I ended up in solitary confinement for attacking a prison guard.
Okay.
So that gave me an even higher status
Okay.
than I had already because most people were afraid to fight back against the correction guards, right? And so I seen a situation. I walked into a situation where I was witnessing correctional guards, on this one guy, and I knew he was innocent, you
Hmm.
know, because I seen him and I knew he wasn't outside of his cell at the time that it happened. Blah blah blah, and I was like, no, I said something. I spoke up. So when I spoke up, everybody paused right there at the prison. Everybody
Yeah.
just kind of paused, like, "Uh-oh."
Yeah. Yeah.
And when that happened, the guards told me to keep walking. It's none of your business, right? And I said, no, it is my business. And I got involved, and I a fight ensued. I was the aggressor, and it scared the guards
Yeah, yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah.
And so the guards told the gun tower to shoot me, like
Wow.
shoot. And all of the guys that was there, they was telling me to get out. They was like, get down, man. They was I couldn't hear it because I literally blacked out. And finally, so it got through. They're pointing the gun at you, and I just heard that, and I went to the ground, put my hands up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I ended up in solitary confinement for a year. And that's a long time to be in solitary
Oh,
confinement
I can't imagine, brother.
as well. So all of that was built my reputation even more. But during that time I was there, about maybe 5 months in, I started reading and studying every book I got my hands on. People were giving it to me. Even the guards were bringing me books. Hey, what is that over? I would see something in the distance, like, that's a book. Give it here, right? I read everything I got my hands on. And
Wow.
that's how my knowledge, everything just changed. It was a paradigm shift, man, for me. And my dad wrote me a letter, and it
That's
impacted me tremendously.
well,
And once that letter, I opened that letter, man, and the scene that was from my dad and not my mom. And the
yeah.
statement that he made to me, he said, if you don't change whatever you're doing out there, because we can't visit you, they won't let us see you or anything right now. That your mom and I may not live to see you walk out of those doors.
Yeah.
So the light bulb went off right there,
Wow.
and it was literally paradigm shift right there,
Well,
right on the spot.
well, I'm glad that that message got through to
Yeah,
you when you had
yeah,
that rifle pointed at your brother. Now,
yeah.
do you think, there was some sort of, because I'm at the age of my life right now,
Hmm.
Yusuf, that I don't think things happen for a reason. That's just me. I think,
Right.
or not, I think things don't happen by coincidence. I think things happen for a reason. Was there any kind of
Hmm.
divine intervention that you think happened in your life?
Absolutely. And so I'm a Muslim. That's actually when I became a Muslim as well. So
Mhm.
during that time, that process when I was reading, doing all this reading, and, after getting that letter from my dad, I read everything,
Mhm.
Christian, Judaism, even voodoo. I was reading everything, right? And I finally came across Islam, and it was something that I seen
Yeah.
the inherent discipline in it around fasting, praying 5 times a day. And I said, you know what? If I'm doing that, if I'm praying 5 times a day, there's no way I could be
Yeah.
messing up,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I embraced that idea, and I embraced it, and I continued reading. I said, man, I couldn't wait to get out of the solitary confinement so I can go back to school because
Yeah.
there was an opportunity for me to get my GED and things like that. So once I finally got out of there, and it was like everybody was watching me when I, they walked back on the yard, just different person, because they was hearing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They was like, I don't think he's the same dude. He got into some stuff while he was in there, but then after a while, I think he changed. But
Yeah.
they didn't know. They was hearing different things, right? Because I got into it with the guards while I was inside solitary confinement as well. That made it to the yard, and so they were just waiting for me to say something. Once I finally opened my mouth, I was like, I'm done. That was the first thing I said. I looked around. I said, I'm done. So I'm like, I did like that,
And that
you know.
probably brought you um, just instant credibility, just given
Yeah,
who you
exactly.
are. And then
Yeah.
these other people in there with like, gang members are
Hmm.
probably going, shit, Yusef is doing
Yeah.
it. Maybe I can do it,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
he's impacting me in some way.
And it did go that way because once I told them what I was doing, I told her I started reading the Quran as well while I was
Mhm.
inside. I studied a lot. I said I'm ready to do some things that's going to change. I was already telling them then I was going to do some things that was going to change the world.
Yeah.
I told them, I said I'm going to be doing something that's going to change. I said even if I never get out of prison, it's going to help you guys one day. That's what I told them.
So fast forward, brother,
Yeah.
you get out of prison,
Hmm.
you get on parole, and
Yeah.
then what happens? What happens next?
Yeah. So being out on parole, has its challenge,
Yeah.
but it didn't stop me from showing up. So I showed up at everything that I could find that was related to helping people, whether it was feeding people, whether it was, going downtown, talking to the homeless and giving them dinner, sharing my dinner, going to community meetings, going to city council meetings, anything that I could find that was connected to change, that was connected to policy change or some type of community development. I was there. I was showing up in the room, and I would tell them, "This is what I wanted to do. This is my vision
Yeah.
for change, right?" And I would always speak to it before I tell them who I am. I would speak to it, and they were like, "Wow, that's amazing. That's great." And then I'd be like, "By the way, I just got out from serving 22 years." And they're like, "What?"
It's amazing.
And they couldn't believe it. I like, how did your mind? I wouldn't think that you was someone that was come from prison because the positivity that you're speaking to, right? And I was like, well, and but it gained. I got a lot of good allies as a result of that. Mayors,
Yeah.
Other politicians, board of supervisors, assembly members, senators, all types of people, were just wanting to talk to me, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
that's what
powerful.
changed everything.
That's powerful,
Yeah,
brother. And you
yeah,
are a big advocate, and I believe in this too, with like reentry and
yeah.
criminal justice reform. I
Mm-hmm.
think we need that. But
Yes.
reentry programs, I mean, you know as well as I do, and for the listeners out
Mm-hmm.
there, most people that are incarcerated are going to get out.
Yes, they
There's
are. Mm-hmm.
so what are we doing to help them be successful? Because you know this, for the listeners, you may be somebody who's listening that doesn't know anything about the
Mm-hmm.
system.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that are incarcerated, they don't have the means. They go right back into the same environment that
Yes.
that got them in trouble. And so
Mm-hmm.
how can we, and I'm not saying there's a one answer, there's
Yeah.
probably, it's a
Right.
collaborative effort from
It
everybody at
is.
that table. We need to do a
Yes.
better job because we want people to get out, hopefully educated more so they don't
Mm-hmm.
reoffend. And brother, I mean, the recidivism rate in this country is off the
Mm-hmm.
charts.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a collaborative effort with mental health professionals, substance abuse counselors, gang counselors. Everybody needs to,
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
politicians. Everybody needs to be at that table. People like you who are very successful
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you're doing, man.
Thank you, thank you. And I think they're starting to figure it out. I know California, we have some programs that seem to work. Something that I've been advocating for a long time to have like a one-stop shop. And many of the lawmakers, policymakers have listened to that outcry of, we need one-stop shops. And the reason for that is because when somebody get out of prison, they may not have means to just get around like that, to get plugged into all of the various resources.
Hmm.
So the idea of bringing all of the resources to one place became a big deal. So we have programs in California now where it's a one-stop shop. You go in there, you can get your housing, you can find a job, you can get counseling, all of it, all in one building, one
Hmm.
location.
Yeah.
So more municipalities, more government agencies are looking at that model now. And I've advocated for it before it even existed. I've always said that was going to be one of the ways to make it happen because everybody's not going to get out with the same drive that I have,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I had to jump on a bus, get on a bike, do all these different things to get myself together in the early days of being released. But everybody's not going to want to do that when they can just be picked up by the homie,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And say, man, that's go over here. And as soon as that happened, the next thing that's about to happen is here goes some money. We're
Yeah.
gonna buy you some clothes, have you looking real fresh,
But don't you
and now
think
you owe us again.
but don't you think there's a percent? I mean, you would know, Yusuf. That's why I'm asking you. Don't you think there's a
Yeah.
percentage? I agree with you. That's why recidivism is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But if
Mm-hmm.
some of these individuals that got out of being incarcerated had somewhat of a path forward,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, or some sort of compass, some sort of direction.
Yes.
I'm not saying they would say, "All right, I'm going to go to being clean and going the right route." Maybe they still
Mm-hmm.
would go right. But I mean,
Yep,
I
that's
just think
true.
we just don't have a lot of things to offer you had that drive. You're different.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
God came to you, an
Yeah.
epiphany and said, look,
Yeah.
I have plans for you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and they don't see that because, like you said, it's the easy money, it's the easy fix. I got the Rolly, got the Lambo, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to go that
Exactly.
route, and
Hmm.
but it's tough, brother.
But I
It
think
really,
housing is a big piece of it.
yeah,
That's the reason I focus more on housing when I came home. In my program, like right now, I have like 200 beds
it's
for
awesome.
folks when they come home. And so I told myself, I said, I think that's a big piece of it because you still have that captive audience because they got somewhere to live. And then I come in there and I talk to them, and I train my people to go in there and talk to them. So they have somebody constantly in their ear saying, this is how to do it right. And
Yeah.
then here I come pulling up, just like that guy, the homie with the Lambo that's selling cocaine, probably still. I'm pulling up in a BMW though and saying, let's do it the right
Hey,
way.
let's do it the right
You
way.
know
I
what I'm
got the
saying?
Beamer over here.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and they love that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
love it. They embrace me, and I don't try to separate myself. Being a founder, being a CEO, I don't try to say I'm over here. Don't talk to me. I still go to my sites. I still mingle with the
You're
people. So
humble. You're humble. You don't forget where you were at,
yeah, yeah,
and
right,
where you are right now, which makes you unique. Talk about your organization, brother. You just
yeah,
mentioned it.
yeah. So our organization, the Timelist Group, we're a nonprofit 501(c)(3) organization that's rooted in serving, the community as well as the reentry population. I guess our core mission is around reentry and eradicating homelessness
Mhm.
because oftentimes those are one and the same because many people that been in the justice system end up homeless, and that's a statistic that's not often talked about. So I try to, I don't, even though I don't put them in the same bag, I still give them the same options of
Mhm.
being able to find employment, whether that employment is coming directly from me and my organization or one of our partner agencies, and then of course a bed, so somewhere to live, somewhere where they're going to eat every day, good meals, and we're serious about it. And when I
Mhm.
say serious about it, we went out and found people that are literally like chef status that cook for my people. So all 200 people are getting really good meals from people that really know how to cook, right?
That's awesome.
So we try to take it. And then another thing that I did is I refused to put bunk beds in my housing facilities because I didn't want them feeling like they were back in jail
Yeah,
where they got to climb up on a rack and that kind of stuff.
psychologically, that's a good idea
Yeah,
because yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's you're thinking back when you're going crawling up there. That was a good move.
XL twin beds. That's all it. This XL twin beds. Whereas another person might say, "Oh no, we can pack them in there. We can get more money if we
No, you did it
put
the
bunk
smart way.
beds and all that." I said, "No, no, 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 no. We're not doing
Now,
that."
what's the
So
name of the organization, brother? If you mentioned it, I didn't catch it. Go ahead.
yeah, Timeless Group, as you
Okay.
can see, Marley in the background. Um, uh, and it's timeless, not timeless.
Okay.
Timeless
Okay.
group. And we have a website, timelessgroup.org. You'll see it. You'll see my other co-founders who actually approached me and was like, man, you're doing all these workshops now in the yard, man. You need to take this all the way. I said,
Yeah.
I plan on doing it. Next day I came out with a whole manual, baby.
That is,
I stayed up all night just writing,
yeah, yeah,
with the ideas. So
yeah.
it just developed. And now we're a multi-million-dollar nonprofit.
It's
Uh,
amazing, brother.
and yeah,
Did you
we've got
ever,
about
th-
yeah.
did you ever think, you know, that, go back 10 years or,
Hmm.
whatever, when you were running and gunning, did you ever think that you would be in a
Hmm.
position right now in your life?
No, I didn't. I mean, I really felt like maybe I'll be working in somebody's factory, or I had an idea before to do some works around a business, opening up some kind of business, but nothing like this where I would be actually giving back to my community where so many people I've employed over the years. I remember I'm actually close to 500 right now
Amazing.
of getting people in jobs. So yeah, I never thought that it would come to this. Like right now, currently my workforce is about 105. 85% of them being justice involved, having a criminal record.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
I like how, things have definitely, you and I are the same age, brother. I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah.
used to be, and I guess the stigma is still out there. Like if you're incarcerated, oh, I'm not going to hire you to, I think that's the
Yes.
stigma's out there to some extent, but I really think, and this is just my opinion, that we've kind of made some ground with that where,
Yeah,
but I guess it
we've
depends.
evolved
And
as
yeah,
a
we've
society.
evolved, and I guess
Hmm.
we're probably not in the same place in the '80s, like when you and I grew
Yes.
up, where oh, you're
Yeah.
incarcerated, we're not even going to talk
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
I like
Exactly.
how people like you are out there, and you're
Hmm.
really, giving people a chance. I mean, shit, it's
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
even then, even still, because I've had situations where a lot of people that I hired and maybe it didn't work out, or maybe they left, or tried to find something else to do, and they left and came back. I got so many that I've rehired because it just wasn't the same being away from us, and it's like they didn't get treated well, they didn't get paid well, or something didn't go right. And they end up coming back. We just hired two more people that was recently employees, just came back like within the last month, because they felt at home coming back. Just they wanted to continue to evolve with us as an organization.
Uh, do you ever go into a little different question? Do you ever go into
Mhm.
like work with law enforcement agencies and go in there and saying, look, I'm a former gang member, pretty high up in the food chain, and help them kind of how to interact with. I know they got gang units and stuff like that, but do you ever go in and say like LAPD or somewhere out in California and
Yeah,
say, this is a successful way how to interact with gang members?
I did it more when because I moved from. I'm in LA right now, but I was in the Bay Area for a while, for like 4 years, 5 years. I did it more there, but since I've been in LA, I've focused more on building the organization so
Okay.
much
Yeah.
that I haven't got a chance to do that. But that's something that I'm interested in. But I'm more interested in on a national level.
Yeah.
I really want to do something like that on a national level because I feel like I have a lot to contribute, a lot to offer folks
Yeah.
that's
Of
in law
course you do.
enforcement.
Of course you do. I got a
Yeah.
buddy, his
So
name is Dion Joseph. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He works out in
mhm.
LA. He's still active
Okay.
LAPD, and he spends a lot
Okay.
of time on Skid Row
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
with homeless people. Such a great
I've
guy.
probably seen him before because if he's on Skid Row, I have things that I do down there periodically. So I'm in Skid Row sometimes. So yeah.
You might have. He's always there. Big, huge African
Yeah.
American guy, just the
Yeah.
greatest guy in the world. He's been with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
LAPD for years, and he's such a good guy, man. So
Yeah, and I think part of it too, when I was in the Bay Area, there was law enforcement folks that I was attending meetings with. So that was partly why I was able to get more involved with that then, because they would take me into the jails,
yeah.
especially the juvenile, where they had juveniles incarcerated. And they would let me come in there and talk to both of them. Their group, I would have a group where I would talk to just law enforcement, and then I would have another group where I'm talking to the population, the inmate population, right? Because
Yeah.
I would always tell them, let's keep it separate because I think they'd be more receptive when I approach it that way. I have a lot of ideas on how I approach things when it involves law enforcement, and
Well,
everybody know that it works
well,
that I've worked with. So
I'll connect you. I'll send Dion an email and loop you in on it, brother, because he's
yeah,
been
for
all over
sure.
he's been on national
Yeah.
news and stuff like that. If you
Okay.
want, I could hook you
Yeah.
guys up.
Oh yeah,
And
for sure. I'll be
yeah,
interested in that. Definitely. Yes.
if
Hmm.
you had, as we wrap up,
Hmm.
if somebody's struggling right now, maybe they're um, in a gang or
Hmm.
something, or maybe they're heading down that wrong path. Well, what advice would you give that individual, man or woman? It doesn't matter what race. Um, what advice would you give that person?
Okay. Well, the first thing I would do is I would ask them a question. And it's an important question. I think I asked this multiple times. I would ask them, where do they see themselves in the next 10 years? That's the first thing I ask folks, because that usually
Yeah.
allows me to set them up
Yeah. Yeah.
for what I'm gonna tell them. And usually when I ask them that, none of them say they a gang member, and that's the reason I asked that. No one has ever told me if I asked them that question that they still see themselves as a gang member in 10 years.
Wow.
So so I would say in response to that, I say, so why are you still here now? Why are you still in this world, in this life right now? And it's usually, like I said, money, this and that. This is who I am, and just random stuff they say. So I tell them, if you ever want to grow up to be successful and to have children, grandchildren that see you and build a legacy for yourself and for your family, you have to turn away from this lifestyle that you're currently in, this path.
Mm.
Because usually when I say that, they want to know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I just use myself from that point.
That's,
You know what I mean? I usually just use myself from that standpoint. So
I know. I love that, brother. I mean, I tell clients, I told you what I do. I work in behavioral health now. And I
yes.
tell clients when it's appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
I tell clients, I tell them, and it's the truth. Nobody's coming to
Mm-hmm.
save you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it yourself. And you have that
Yeah.
gift. When your
Mm-hmm.
creator gave it to you, you just got
Yeah.
to find it and you got to have that passion. You got to have that will to change
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because anything worthwhile, Yusef, you know it, is going to require work and dedication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Another thing that I like using too is as I just tell them to get away from it for a couple of days.
yeah,
I said, just go. I said, go visit another town. I said it doesn't even have to be in Los Angeles. I'm saying go, even if you can leave out the state, if you're allowed to leave the state, go somewhere. And that's another thing that I tell them, just to experience that, being away. Because I only do that because I know what it was like for me as a gang member when I was young. And whenever I would leave out of my neighborhood, I would feel different.
yeah,
They even show that even on movies. There's movies I've seen film where they show that, man, this is the first time I ever left out of my neighborhood and it
yeah,
feels different. Because
yeah,
something opens up a little bit. Because most gang members, they're trapped. They're behind so-called enemy lines that they've created. So they don't leave out of those areas, out of those communities.
yeah.
So I know how to take their minds out of that because I've been there. So that's the reason I kind of set them up in such a way when I talk to them, when I advise them.
Amazing, brother. If people want to reach out to you, my friend, how can they do so?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm very visible on social media. So I would just suggest social media. I usually respond within 24 hours if I see a message on Instagram or Facebook. So definitely that's the easiest way because I know everybody's on their mobile device. Most people don't go to websites anymore.
No,
So
no.
I just say, check me out on social media, Yusef Andre Wiley. That's YUSEFW, Andre, ANDRE, Wiley, WILEY. So it's just one word, Yusef Andre Wiley, and you'll find me on Instagram.
Brother, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. We appreciate
Yes,
you. Your
sir.
story is amazing. You're doing God's
Thank you for
work, my
having me,
friend.
man.
And
Thank you.
if you ever need anything, reach out to me. I'll shoot you an email down the road
Yeah,
within the next day or two, connecting you
definitely, man.
and
Yeah,
Dion. Okay.
yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
All right, brother. God bless.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bless you.